We're going to start the Town of Sangerville Board of Selectmen's special meeting Wednesday, August 25th, 2021. It's 4 o'clock, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'm going to suggest that we deviate a little bit. First of all, we need a chair.
Huh.
There you go.
So, I'd like to make a motion that Mike Wark remains chair.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We vote? Okay. I think we ought to bring the, it looks like we have members of the Sangerville Historical Society here, and I appreciate them coming today. Why don't we move them to the top?
Good.
How many of you are members of the Historical Society?
There's 4 of us here.
All 4, okay. Like I said, thank you for coming. The reason we invited you here is we wanted to discuss the mailing that you sent out prior to the town meeting. I think I can say that all of us were shocked and disappointed. And I think personally, I invited you here because I'm trying to understand why you would do this. We haven't had a meeting in a year and a half. We finally are getting back together. And I think everybody in Sangerville got one of these.
Except for Darlene.
And it's just filled with inaccuracies and untruths. In fact, some of the suggestions here, if we actually did them, would be illegal. So, yes.
I'd like to speak first. I take offense to that. There's no misinformation in that letter. I did not write it, but there's no information. I read it. It was authorized by the committee, by the Historical Society. In your letter to the residents of Sangerville, you said the drawings will be on display, and you asked for comment or something to that effect in your letter in the town report. So we figured that we want the public to know exactly what was going on.
This item was never on the warrant. And the second,
We didn't put it on. We didn't say we were going to discuss it in the warrant.
it says an important issue to be
Yes.
discussed
But it
at the
doesn't
upcoming
say-
town meeting.
But it doesn't say as a town meeting warrant.
The only things that can be discussed at town meeting,
I understand that.
are items on the warrant,
I have
so-
a family that's been in town business. for years.
so that statement would not be true.
May I ask, I'm very curious to know what points you consider to be inaccurate, and I'll start with that first one, right at the top. It doesn't say, we had anticipated some kind of a discussion, not necessarily during the town meeting, but perhaps either before the business of the town meeting or after the business of the town meeting. Not for a vote, and that was clearly written. It wasn't for a vote, it was just for having a discussion based on the fact that we knew the plans were going to be there. And it was inviting people just to come voice, as you said, voice an opinion about it. So, you know, when we say that we're looking for a discussion, perhaps we had misjudged your intent by having the plans posted and inviting voice. And if that is something that we mistakenly thought was going to happen, then we acknowledge that that's probably an inaccuracy.
I don't know why you would do that without coming to us and talking. Why wouldn't you have come to the board and asked?
I can speak to that.
I have brought up issues in a selectmen's forum, when I brought up the issue of my taxes, and I was bullied out of this room and sent home in tears. So that's a little intimidating.
I don't believe that's true.
We have all that on
I have
tape.
witnesses.
We have it on tape.
Yep.
Good, I hope you do.
I
because
mean,
it's
anybody
true.
can listen.
I hope it is on tape.
No, it definitely is.
That's reassuring. That's good to know. I didn't tape it, because I don't, do those kinds of things, but
No,
I'm glad it is.
all of
taped.
our meetings are recorded,
Everyone.
as was the
Yeah.
town meeting.
Just try and keep it positive.
Positive, I'm feeling nothing but negativity, but okay, no, that's good. I think this is an amazingly positive thing that the town would do, is to come together about an issue. I thought that's what town meetings are for.
Well, if it was on the warrant, as it was last year, as a discussion article, then we could all sit and discuss it. But we had no new information, nothing to bring to the discussion, and so it wasn't put on the warrant. The drawings have been out here on the wall, and at least one of them fell down, and I have to retape it up. But they've been out here on the wall for months, at things we've looked at, but it's been over a year, and COVID has changed a lot of things, and so we haven't moved forward in any way, shape, or form. And that's why it wasn't on the warrant.
No, I would beg to differ in saying you have to move forward if you've already engaged someone in drawing elevations. And,
No elevation.
well, that's what those drawings are, all elevations.
Well,
And also, looked at sites. I consider that forward movement in your investigation.
again, they've been posted, we aren't, I guess we aren't moving on those.
Could I ask, can we, the one thing that irritates me is that, well, not irritates, it bothers me, is that you find inaccuracies. And I truly do not want anything that is written to contain inaccuracies. So if you could go to the points that.
Here's one.
Thank you.
The town select board is pushing forward with plans to sell the town hall in favor of a smaller building to be built outside the village boundaries. We can't sell the town hall.
We've never mentioned selling the town hall.
Why did you get it for sale?
Part of our responsibility is to do our due diligence with any project, whether it's a road project or a beaver dam that needs to be removed, or a building that has potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of foundation work that needs to be done. We need to explore all the avenues. That's our responsibility.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're gonna ask all of you to write a check for whatever course of action that the town takes. So it would be irresponsible for us to not know what this building is worth, what other possible remedies exist. And we're in the process of doing that, and we have been. But we are not pushing forward with the sale of this building, and if we were to do that, it would be illegal.
We can't do that. It's town property. The townspeople have to do that.
We know that.
Then why would you write that?
But not
That's what
everybody
I'm saying.
does.
Maybe
We're not
people were
selling it.
talking about it, maybe other people in the town were talking about it.
And I assume they probably were after they got this letter.
Right?
No, before, I mean, how else would people know that?
Because, and that's kind of our concern. This isn't the first time we've run into these, it's almost like a campaign of misinformation. We're just trying to run the town.
Right.
And we've actually had people set up websites where their entire mission of the website was just to attack us. In fact, I know you know about it.
Yes.
So this is shades of that.
And I can understand that perspective. I do understand that perspective, but if you could please also understand our perspective in that at the last town meeting, and granted, we've had a pandemic, but at the last town meeting, our understanding was that we were going to hear from the select board as a town, hear from the select board as you were going through the process. That was our understanding. Our perspective is obviously different from your perspective. I think what we're looking for is a way to move forward so that we can work as a partnership with you, whether it be a town committee our town hall committee, which I looked for one of those papers with all the other papers, and there wasn't a town hall committee. I was hoping for something because I was going to sign up for it. But to get more citizen involvement, because that was something too at the town meeting in March of 2020. That was something that was discussed, is having a citizens group to help you with this. And that hasn't occurred. So I think we understand your perspective on this. I think we understand that there has been some agitation as a result of it. From our perspective, there has been support because of this from the way we look at the situation. Obviously, we share different perspectives of the same thing. My proposal is that we move forward in a positive way together. Not that we represent everyone in the town, but as citizens, to help make this a more open discussion with a forum that invites the public so that it is, I don't know what I don't want to call it fully transparent, because I know you believe that putting it on the agenda for the select board, discussing at a board meeting, and then posting the minutes to you means that you've been transparent about it, and I get that.
You can't get much more than that.
Would you agree that that's transparent?
I get that.
Would you agree?
To an extent, yes, because, yes, I can.
Okay.
Mike,
But, go ahead.
may I make just comment based on what you said? We, the three of us, cannot discuss anything unless we are sitting here
Yes,
at our select board meeting and we choose to record it because so many people can then pull it up. So this is the only way we can meet.
but can you call a meeting of interested townspeople when you?
You can call a meeting of interested townspeople.
Apparently we can't.
But you're the ones who are.
That's not what you did.
That's
I
right.
didn't do this. I don't know.
Oh, okay, but that's not what this letter did. This wasn't a meeting of interested town people.
No.
This was a criticism of your select board.
Everywhere we went, no one seems to even know that you were in the discussions of doing something with the town hall.
Well, actually, we haven't had much discussion for the last year because we couldn't advance the
But
ball.
you have raised it, we've come.
No, we raised it a year ago
Yes.
when we became aware of our foundation
Sure.
issue,
And
but,
selling was, at one of the meetings we went to, you offered the building to us or said, would you be interested in the building?
and you said
also
no.
said yes, and the selling was also raised. I don't know if that was when Chris Mass was here, but
No.
that,
It's interesting you bring up Chris's name because you guys invited us to that meeting and he was like a guest of yours. And for people who don't know, he was kind of like the groundswell of interest for the Central Hall project in Doe Foxcroft, which the parallels between the two buildings are uncanny. I mean, they're just huge theaters, very, very expensive and he was a really compelling speaker.
Yeah, and comprehensive, we understood the entire process.
Filled with energy and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
He loved our building.
Yeah.
And he mapped out exactly how it should be done. He
What
was
is it?
clear.
What is it? I don't understand.
The building.
Oh, but you were, how the process of renovating an old piece of architecture like this was done, because he did it.
They just did it.
It was a 14-year project, and it was $2.5 million, but they did it. And he was bursting with pride. But that didn't seem to resonate with you guys.
oh, it resonated with us.
Oh, well,
Did it
that's
resonate?
the approach.
The very-
Chris's approach is
Correct.
the way to go.
It wasn't in town's hands to do any of it.
No,
It needs to be a private,
And it wasn't tax.
and it wasn't tax dollars that paid for it.
Right.
Chris told you exactly how much work it was. He said, once it was in their hands, they knew it could never go away. The building was safe. It was gonna be a lot of work, And it was almost a decade and a half before they got it to the point where they could use it. But that was your meeting.
I think though, the point that we are trying to make in this mailing is that we want this to remain the center of town government. And this is the focal point of our community, not as an addendum building with the town hall someplace else. Because the character and integrity of the village is disintegrating in a lot of ways. We have nearly derelict buildings. We have sidewalks that are falling apart and are unsafe for people who have mobility issues. We no longer have a school. We no longer have a town restaurant. Not that it's anything to do with you. It's just the path that our town has taken over time.
It's demographics.
But the idea of removing the town library, is the town library a part of the new town hall?
There is no, the town library isn't a town library.
Okay, but is there a plan for the library to be a part of
It
the
certainly
town
is
hall?
something we would have to discuss.
Yeah, okay, but the idea of moving what right now is the only focal point for the village into private hands and not have something that represents the government and the people of the town is our issue.
So it worked in Dover, but you don't think it can work in Sangerville?
I do not, and the reason I do not at this point, I mean, we have been doing some work ourselves. Kelly has been very instrumental in that. But I don't think it's going to work the same way because we don't have the industry and the money in Sangerville that Dover did.
But that's.
And there is
the
lies
bigger
the
problem.
rub.
That's why a nonprofit needs to own it and not the town. Because this town can't afford to fix it either. And the townspeople do not, I understand that your group thinks that the town is behind you and you all wanna fix this.
No,
But
it's not like the whole town. We understand that there's a lot of people who are.
There is a lot of people.
And there are a lot of people. I think there are two sides to this.
I,
I do know that. I do, and there's absolutely no question that this is, a for and against kind of thing. Absolutely no question.
well, it's not a for and against, it's,
Well, for saving the building as the government center or against saving this building as the government center.
I don't think that's the conversation. It's-
Oh,
It all down to, do the townspeople wanna spend X amount of their taxes to fix it, or do they not?
okay.
And that's what I'm hearing, is they don't
Location's
wanna,
part of it though, correct? I mean,
No.
you've got money to fix this or money to build a new one, here or there.
Well,
it's
if
not,
you-
that's not even comparable.
If you
Yeah,
go
it's two
with the
different
project,
things. Location is important for people who don't have driver's licenses, which there are many in this town. So, location is important, and also money is important. And there's other things that are important too.
Yeah.
if we go
Sentimentality
with the Central
is
Hall
great.
project, and that was a 14-year project, so if anything, it's gonna be more expensive, not less. Things cost more than they did 14 years ago. We also know right out of the gate that we have a foundation issue that's in the hundreds of thousands. So it's not unrealistic to think that this would be a $3 million project if theirs was 2.5.
Well, if I could.
Maybe.
Okay, sorry,
Okay.
go ahead,
Maybe.
sorry.
So there's a difference, a huge difference between the resources that a town like Dover Foxcroft has versus Sangerville, okay? One mill in Dover Foxcroft is about 300 grand. One mill in Sangerville is about 75 grand, okay? So the $3 million project in Dover Foxcroft would be 10 mil to a taxpayer. The same exact project in Sangerville is like 10 times, or 3 times that. So if you have I looked up, everybody's house, it's all public knowledge. Mine's on there, yours is on there.
Yep.
If we could finish this for $3 million, which doesn't seem like hyperbole,
No,
Um,
not
You're
at
on the low
all, not
side.
at all.
I don't believe you're gonna touch it for 3.
3 million for the foundation, and I wanna be
No,
clear.
no,
No, no, no, no.
3 million for the
Make,
building.
finish it, so we can use the upstairs, have an
Why
elevator.
don't we not do that and just focus on the broken foundation?
Well, if you're,
That doesn't make
otherwise,
Why not?
we've already poured $500,000 in this place, and it still has a broken foundation.
Let's fix the foundation.
Get it so we
I don't
can
need
use
bells
it.
and whistles and pretty lamps.
Well,
and
we've got
shiny
stained
floor.
glass that's falling out.
Right,
So,
Have you looked into
Let me
anybody
finish,
that can do
let me
that?
finish.
it's already been working.
If you want this to be a completed project, we're not gonna half step it. Your donation would be $3,700. Poor Mr. Davis here, you're gonna have to pony up, let's see, $3,500. I'm $6,000. My mother is $5,000.
Over
Those are
how-
big
over
dollar
how long?
amounts.
Over how long? How
No,
long?
it's a one-time check.
one time here.
Why one-time check?
That's what the project would cost. That's what the mill rate translates into for a $3 million project
Right.
when you have a community the size of Sangerville.
So
One
you're
mill is
saying that in order to do this
$75,000.
project, I would have to come up with $3,000, or people would have to come up with thousands of dollars in 1 year for a long
Oh, we could
project?
spread it out and pay interest, but there's no free lunch.
It's still that amount of money.
It's still that amount of money. And in fact, if we spread it out for 10 years, it's gonna be a lot more money.
So what do you wanna do, take the building down? Cause someone's gonna have to fix it.
That would be one option, but not our first option. We might have to look at selling it. We might look at donating it to the Historical Society. We might look at any number of things, but all we've done is just look at things. We have a problem, and we're trying to figure out how to address it.
Dale, you said though that the town can't afford it, so you made a decision.
No, I
I'm saying,
suspect.
a lot of the townspeople have already approached us that do not wanna fund this. I've had way more people tell me they don't wanna spend this kind of money on this building. That they would rather see us spend a lot less money and get us into something that's more affordable to use what we use.
And we've heard from a lot of people who say they want to keep this building and start
Correct.
investing in it.
No, and there may be some people that want
Sure.
to spend that money. It might be that way. But if 20 years ago, over the last 20, we spent over $500,000 on this place. We spent over $10,000 a year just in heat and electricity. We could have built a new building that would do everything that we needed to do, run more efficiently for what we spend in heat and lights.
How much did you pay for the drawings? I'm just curious. How much was
The-
spent? 1,200?
Yeah.
1,200, what was the 20,000 allotted for?
15,000.
15,000, I thought it was 20, but go
And
ahead.
it was 15. 15,000 was if we had taken an engineering firm and said, go top to bottom,
Sure.
tell us, do a 10-year plan, tell us what we need to do to,
But that money has not been spent?
1,200 has been spent.
Out of this is money that was set aside, out of the 15,000, only 1,200 has been
At
spent?
the end of the year, that money goes back into the general funds. But since we're operating on last year's budget, there's another 15
Sure.
there if we chose to use it.
My own thought is, I am worried that this would be something, I know you said that you're gonna, the residents are gonna have to vote on it, but
They do.
what you did for the solid waste, everyone is sitting there going, what the hell happened?
We worked on that for 2 years.
2
That
years.
may be.
That is.
And you post the agendas on this door out here.
They're posted online,
They're
posted.
online and they're on the door, I mean,
They used to be posted in the post office and Robinsons as well, so people
and they
went to
are.
the post office, they know what was going on.
But every meeting is
During
recorded.
COVID, I couldn't access the internet. I have the library only because my income level requires me to come to the library, and during COVID, I could not access the
But
library.
I'm just afraid that that same kind of thought might play into role in this town hall.
Well, and I'm sure a lot of people share that concern, particularly after this letter. But we cannot sell this building without going before the town.
And most
So-
everybody knows how the Historical Society was formed. They know it's not a town government. Anybody that's lived here 15 years or more knows how we formed. It was from the 175th anniversary. And, but we're trying to be good neighbors. We've helped the town. We've done as many projects as we can for a small group. And we would like to work with you on this town hall issue.
I think if you guys have the passion for the building, you should grab onto this building and go with it.
You're looking.
If you have that much support, and you have that many people that you say are interested, why isn't that a better, because as a nonprofit owning it, you guys would be eligible for way more in different type grants than if the town owns it.
But we're going back to what Diane said, this is the town, this is the center of the town.
It's not the center, the center's up there and most of the traffic goes up over the hill. They don't even drive by this
I
building.
have a comment, a question.
But I mean, so wasn't Central Hall in Dover, that was
That's
the
where their
central.
municipal government was.
Sure, was that way for years.
Forever. Well, not forever, but for a big segment of time.
That Dover did have a disadvantage versus here. The Dover Town Hall, the whole structure, Central Hall, was a mess from top to bottom. I think we've got a step ahead of them in that this first floor has been renovated. And a lot of foundation work has already been accomplished.
That's all
So
gone.
this is not gone.
Actually,
It is.
Actually-
No. What you see on this first floor isn't gone. There was significant design and restructure of this first floor.
Correct.
Which the Central Hall didn't have.
Correct,
So
but that
we
has
are-
been done, and that's part of the problem.
But-
And a lot of our floors needs to be replaced because of that work that was done.
But my point is we are a step ahead of what Central Hall was when they started.
No,
and
what I'm
if you're right, that's better for you. I hope you're right, because maybe it won't be 2.5 million, maybe it will be 1.8 million. I don't know what it's gonna be, but if you're right, and you have an advantage that they didn't have, it's gonna make it easier for you.
Well, it'll be less money.
Well, less time, less, right? That's good.
But if we are an organization that has an $800 budget.
They went out and they found people who had a passion for that old building, and it took a long time. Like I said, it was 14 years.
Is the town hall still in that building? That's my
No,
question.
No, they left. They,
So you're saying, we take the building, we pay the money, and then we house
we
you
don't,
guys?
no, if the
no,
town
no.
decides to give it to you,
Do
you
you want
don't
to
have
lease
to pay
it from
anything.
us,
No.
rent from us?
No.
No.
Then what, so you want, so location is the other part of this argument. People don't want it down there.
We haven't
We
decided
haven't said where it's
anything.
gonna be yet.
No. And I agree there are two parts to this discussion, but they really don't have much to do with each other.
I think they have a lot
We have
do.
to have a town office
A
to
town
run the
center.
town.
This is a town center as well as a town hall of historic significance.
Like I said, Dover Foxcroft moved it and they were able to adapt and life moved on.
And what is the town hall now? What is it, now that it's renovated? What is it?
That's a good question. That's a very good.
It has some nice functions. I was there for one a while ago that honored Mr. Howard. You were there, Mr. Davis was there.
Yeah.
It does some
It has
annual
senior-
functions.
Hopefully.
For the town, for
Senior center.
restaurants, what is it?
No, for the town.
It's an empty building that is
No.
rarely used?
No.
For 2
Kelly.
million?
Kelly.
I'm just
down-
asking.
The downstairs has a senior gathering area with the hopes to having it be a senior theater in the future. The upstairs is a rental venue for wedding receptions, honoring people. It has a stage, it has a kitchen, it has the facilities for renting.
It's beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
Yep.
It is gorgeous. May I don't want to just keep spinning wheels here. I would like to move forward with this. It's obvious to me that we are coming from two very different perspectives on this. What we are seeing, what we are understanding that you're doing, you perceive as misrepresenting and misunderstanding. I think what you see from us is the same. I would like to find some common ground so we can move forward in a positive way and help facilitate informing the public of your efforts and perhaps the support that we can give you to make this,
One suggestion I would make is anytime that any of you have a concern, that you've heard something that is upsetting or scary, maybe it's a rumor or something, come to us.
as.
Say, is this true? Or I heard this.
You're
And
very
if-
intimidating. I'm gonna say that this was very intimidating. My first experience, I wasn't allowed to vote in your election when I bought my house, the only home I owned. I wasn't allowed to vote in the election for the medical marijuana. Do you remember that?
I
Maybe
remember
wasn't
that, I remember
recorded.
that. ordinance, but I don't remember your
I was
personal
told by the town
experience.
manager, I believe her name was Doreen, that I wasn't allowed to vote even though I went to that meeting because I had no evidence of an electric bill because I didn't have the electric on yet because the electrical system was so dangerous. But because I couldn't prove that it was my primary residence, I wasn't allowed to vote.
But Kelly, that's a.
No, I'm saying that this is related because it's intimidating to some people, to me, to come to a town meeting like this and express an opinion because you get angry. I was making points about my tax bill and one of the, I think Hamilton, I don't even know who it is, you guys were saying I had to complain about it by April 1st, but I didn't even receive my tax bill until June. I was hammered in here, all by myself, by a board of people. And that was very intimidating, and that is a lot of the reason why a lot of people probably don't even come to the library in this town.
No, I
They
remember-
don't want to come to the town hall.
I remember a discussion with you one day, and you were very upset, and I felt you were upset with us because we wouldn't address your concerns regarding the crosswalk on Pleasant Street. We tried to explain to you that that's a state highway, it wasn't ours, but you just really seemed aggravated with us.
Crosswalk, what are you talking about, crosswalk?
I don't know exactly which one you were referring to.
I never had a complaint about a crosswalk.
And then you also had, I think, the same meeting
I had a
about
complaint about
sand,
the dirt on the road, yes
Right,
I
which-
do, I still have that complaint.
but it wasn't our road, and that you were really aggravated with us. It
Yeah,
seemed
you're
like you were.
You're like, oh, that's a state road, well, give me the number to the state, give me the name of the person I call.
I don't know that.
We don't know
You're
that.
not helping.
That's not our job. We
What-
don't know
What is
that.
your job?
What we're doing here right now.
Could I ask you?
Just because you don't like the answer doesn't mean it's not, that's intimidating.
Could I ask you what the plan is now going forward,
With regard to,
the town hall?
we're hopefully, really, it's gonna be going into the budget season, and hopefully next year, things are more normal, and we can start looking at what our options are. But we haven't really advanced the ball from a year and a half ago.
Do you think it's wise not to, I mean, don't you think it's wise to start a committee to look, to investigate?
What is your outcome of having a committee? Because we already have an engineering that's looked at the building, that's given us prices of what it's gonna cost to fix the foundation.
Well, for one, there has been so much exploration about how the town could access money
Funds.
without having to have anything to do with the tax base at all. That would allow the town, not as a nonprofit, but as a town entity, to receive grants that would help.
Obtain funds, other than taxes.
So, and that's something that we can talk about at another time, but it is something that has been worked on and is a possibility, if you're interested.
Yeah, I mean, if you have information like that, share it with Bridie, and we should know it.
If it's only a money issue, is that your only issue? You
It's
guys,
a
that's our
forever-
job.
it's
That's
not-
our
job.
Your
It is.
standpoint is, how do we provide a building for the town government for the least amount of money? Is that what your position is? So if the money were to come out of heaven, would you want to stay in this building?
Probably not.
And why is that?
Because,
it's not a money issue.
because
It's a liability
I
issue,
look
it's
at,
everything.
I look at the size of our town, and all the deterioration that Diane talked about is real. It's not gonna get easier. We live in the poorest county in the state, one of the poorest counties in the country.
What's
It's
that
not
to do
going
with
to
the
get
president?
easier to pay for a huge antique building. It's not. It's gonna be very expensive to maintain it. Even if we all woke up tomorrow morning and it was pristine, does it make sense for a little community like ours to have an antique theater that we're gonna maintain? I don't know that it does. And I think it's a beautiful building, but I'm not sure that it makes sense.
Between me being involved in budget committee and then being a selectman, that's like 8 years that I can relate to being involved. And I have not had a single person, or know of a single person, that's ever asked to use the upstairs.
Well, because it's in horrid condition.
I was told it didn't have an elevator, it wasn't allowed.
Doesn't
I didn't know
need
I was
an
allowed
elevator.
up there. I didn't know I was allowed. I've always felt like I wasn't even allowed to look at it. I'd love to see it. I've never.
It
even
doesn't
seen
need
it.
an elevator. You
It
can use
doesn't
that
need an
tomorrow.
elevator?
There's nothing that's, we're grandfathered. We don't have to have an elevator to use that. There's no, So there's no use, as far as,
You don't
that's the
heat
other
it-
side.
You don't heat it up there, do you?
Well, you're paying for the heat that goes up through there.
It's
That's
not
part of the
insulated
reason,
between the floors?
not overly well, no.
That's not very expensive, and I think there's all kinds of programs for insulation.
It's
Okay.
it's huge, it's very expensive.
No, it's, but if you look, go to Levant, look at their town office, go to Abbott, look at their town office, go to Parkman, look at their town office. If they were in a 3-story theater with 2 stories of stained glass, it probably costs them more to run their town than what they're spending.
Why don't you buy one of the
It's-
houses that are up for sale?
Parkman
Why don't you buy
has
the
this
It's-
kind of a building. You know, most of the towns don't have this kind of a building.
Anyway, I think ultimately the townspeople are gonna have to decide. I know in your letter, you felt like the last meeting, a year and a half ago, it was decisive that people wanted to save the hall. But I heard a lot of people say, I don't wanna spend that kind of money on that place, so I don't think I think it's more balanced than maybe you feel, but you could be right.
As long as we tell both sides, you know,
More than two.
I'm gonna feel comfortable. I don't care one way they want, I do wanna save this building, but if the majority of the taxpayers want out something else, I'll live with it. But I
I
want
agree with
them
you.
to have both sides.
Why do you have to build a new one? Why can't you just buy the Catholic church on the hill? That would keep it within the village.
May I address that?
Yeah, please.
In light of, we have learned a lot over the last year, and and again, we haven't worked on this, but with COVID and how we have all had to rearrange our lives with COVID, separation, air exchange. We've talked at several meetings about being able to have a screen so anyone who has internet at home could comfortably stay at home and zoom in on our meetings. These are all things, if you buy an old home, you are swimming upstream, as you explained about buying your own beautiful old home. If we were to build something new, it would be efficient, state-of-the-art, and people could, a lot of it could be, have, Zoom type of, all of that.
So what you're trying to do is create a
I'm
place
just-
where people don't gather. So no town meetings, we're
I'm
gonna
not
zoom
saying
in
that,
from
I'm
our
not
own
saying that,
little
No.
I'm just saying, I'm just answering your question with regard to buying.
Buying a
old
building that's
home
already
in town.
existing, if you don't wanna spend money, is what I'm saying. If you don't wanna spend 250,000, maybe you could invest 125 with the Catholic Church, which I mean, I know it's an old building.
You spend 125, you're gonna spend another 100 in renovating it.
Well, that comes right off the top of your head, it's good to know. But anyway, I just think that,
Okay.
I think we should move this meeting along.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming very much.
And I appreciate that you listened to us. I, for one, am very interested in learning how you're doing. I understand you've been hogtied by the pandemic, as we all have, but I'm very interested too in moving forward with you on this so that all the information can be presented to the townspeople whenever, whether it's a forum or a discussion prior to a vote. But I think I'm interested in contributing my time and effort to help you.
can I request a discussion about the town hall issue is on the next warrant? Can I request that? from
On the
you?
next board?
The
Warrant.
next
Warrant.
Oh,
Or the next town
you,
meeting?
when we get ready for that, you can make that request.
Get ready, when does that happen?
Because we're not having a town meeting probably until next year.
So we can put this on the warrant for next year?
We'll consider it if we have something to discuss,
And
but
we can
yes.
petition to put it on whether, if you.
If you
Yes.
petition it, it'll be on.
Yes,
Okay.
if you
yes,
petition it,
definitely
it will be on.
Good to know.
And we may have it on there anyway, I can't speak to it because I don't know for sure where we're gonna be.
It's a big thing, I would think we would want to talk.
If we have something substantive to share, if nothing, what's happened is because of the pandemic, the insurance company kind of took their foot off our neck. So we're not being pushed as hard to remedy our situation, so, but that could change. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you also for letting this be the first discussion.
I appreciate you coming, showing up, it was helpful.
Thanks.
Okay,
I'm clear.
We've kept Mr. Davis.
And an answer I don't like, I don't consider that answering an answer.
So, just because you're insulted doesn't mean you're right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know it's not my role to say it, but I'm sorry.
I know why Mr. Davis is here, and I think we should jump him
Sure.
next to this, so. So the floor is yours, Paul.
The floor is mine.
The floor is, you can share with us what you'd like to talk about today.
Well, first off, I'd like to say it's been kind of a slow day for me. It sort of made it a little more interesting. And I kind of thought maybe I was the one that got most of this sort of thing.
No, it's not just Augusta, is it?
Quite clearly, I'm not.
Might wanna think twice about what you're gonna bring up next. Just-
I've gotta go.
Well, my understanding, I didn't know this until town meeting the other night, that George was going to retire. And a number of years ago, one of the good folks here on the board had talked with me about possibly being the code enforcement officer. And I thought I would explore it a little bit. I'm not foreign to this type of thing. I was a code enforcement officer in the town of Kerner for quite a while. And it was back in the 90s. It's been a while. I'm sure the laws have changed quite a bit. But the only reason I got done doing it was a very dear friend of mine, a man that I thought the world of, had lost his job in town of Bangor. He'd worked at the federal court building, and I felt obligated to tell him that I'd be happy to let him know the code enforcement job. In return, he'd done a lot of favors for me over the years. So I did, and he took it, and he became the officer in Dover and Detroit and a number of towns. So that's basically it. I listened to you very carefully the other night. I saw that the comment was made that we don't have the ordinances to enforce some of the places that need a little work, say, to be polite. And I have always felt that the downtown here ought to be worked on one way or another, either through persuasion or by force of government, if need be. I don't know it that way. It does not have to even think of it. I was Hatton the other day when this other fellow across the street here working on his mother's house, and that's good. He needs it. And I guess that's basically it. I'm not certified. I haven't been for quite a while. Like I said, I walked away because I was certified. I was doing the job. They had me come down one day a week. They had quite an elaborate system there for issuing permits and all sorts of things. It was far more than what Sanguine's got. Don't take that I think we ought to make it more complicated to get down. I'm just telling you what was going on there. So I got done, and I had other angles to pursue. And probably some of you know I've been pursuing different things in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And on your point, I have contacted Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you.
They are supposed to get back on all this. They have a chat. We'll see.
Hope you have better luck than I did.
I guess my main question is what do you fellows expect from your code enforcement officer? What do you expect? What do you want? What do you see for the future?
Well, one question I have is, so you have been certified,
In
so.
the past, I have, yes.
Right.
But it's been, I think that was probably 92 or 3 on in there.
Do you, have you looked into, and I realize that you only just learned about George, but looked into recertifying, or is it a whole new process? Have you looked into that yet?
I have not.
Okay.
I did, when I got done my first term in the state senate, I sat with the future commissioner of the Economic Development Department, I think that was the licensing bureau, and I contacted him after, and we talked about it, I thought something doing that, and seeing if I could do the job somewhere, but then other things came up, and I got busy.
But the CEO side, as we know, I mean, we do know that, you know, if you, or whoever, when they take the new, at the beginning of the year, for CEO, you got 1 year to get that certification complete.
The courses are online.
Right. The harder one, the one that I'm more concerned about, is the plumbing side.
Where there is no grace period.
Correct. That one there, you gotta have it by January 1st.
You gotta be certified by January?
Well, you gotta
We're gonna
be.
need code enforcement by January 1st, so
Right.
whoever, we're gonna need somebody. who's
We're in a
licensed.
position right now, like, I'm just kind of speaking, we've got 3 people who have expressed an interest, and come December 15th-ish, if one of them's got a license, it's gonna
Wouldn't it be a
probably be
little
the
more
default pick, because we don't have anybody. So, and we have to have a license, so that's,
Well, we have to have the plumbing.
correct, the plumbing
That's
is,
the crucial. The
Yes.
CEO, you've gotta, once we appoint, you've got a full year before you gotta get your certification.
So the push for the certification will be for plumbing?
Yes.
yeah, that's kind of non-negotiable, I guess.
Yeah, that,
Apparently.
yeah, that's not.
And the plumbing consists mainly of inspection of septic systems?
Yep.
That type of thing?
Leach fields, yeah, all that, gray water, Jerry would know,
Yeah.
and so would George for that matter, obviously. But that's kind of where we're at right now, is we don't have anybody who has either license, do we, that we've spoken to? No.
No. We're very lucky that we've been able to speak to 3 people, I think.
That's,
because
that was
I
pretty
see
encouraging.
in my email every day, anybody wanna share their code enforcement officer? Anybody found anybody in this area who might be willing, so we're fortunate in that sense. At least we have some interest.
That's why I was wondering about perhaps recertification. But again, it's the
That's
license.
the easy one.
Right,
Well,
it's the
that-
licensed plumbing inspector,
Back
that's
at the time when I was reconsidering it, it was a simple process.
it.
I just get out and get the license, I said, no, we're
Yeah.
or so.
Now, when you were in Corinna, you didn't you didn't do plumbing?
No, I didn't, I worked with the assessor quite a lot, I know quite a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest thing really on that side of it is more the sewer side, and you're gonna have, like, Corinne's gonna draw it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know what I mean? So they would
Right.
have to go get the permit, then Corinne would
It's
do
more
her
of the
part, and then,
process.
correct, and then the
Yes.
plumbing inspector would go on site before you cover it over and validate the plans and things
Right.
of that nature. It's not like the plumbing inspector is gonna be that person that designs.
No,
you
no,
know
no,
what I
no, no,
mean?
no. It's just making sure all the
Yep.
pins are in order,
Yep,
and
everything is done
typically
the way it's
there's
supposed to be done.
three or 5 people that do that type of work in this area. You know what the type of work they do, they,
Yep.
And you do that before you tell them to cover it up.
Yep.
right,
Yep.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly.
And other than that, I think technically, by state code, not so much ours.
Courses online for that too?
I don't know if
I bet
the
there are.
plumbing is too.
Yes.
Huh? But I mean, even if you hire a contractor and put a faucet in your house,
Mhm.
your contractor's supposed to get a plumbing permit in order to do that. If you change your hot water tank out, you're supposed to get a plumbing permit to do that.
Yeah.
And a good contractor will say, where's your permit?
Right.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So that's kind of the other, that's where the plumbing inspector side, if everything went by the way it's supposed to be, probably that side's more busier than the code enforcement.
Right, if
But I don't think
people
a
were
lot of
right,
it
right.
is happening the way
Right.
it's supposed to.
Yeah,
I dare say probably they haven't done a lot of commits this year.
Correct.
right. And then Bridie can address the compensation.
Yeah, I told.
Oh, you did,
I told Paul,
okay.
because we've got a stipend for CEO of
I got up an
4,000.
extra 3,500. Better be looking for
I know,
that.
yeah.
I think the plumbing pays the best.
It
doesn't
does,
Yeah.
It's 75% of the fee goes directly to the
Yeah.
licensed plumbing inspector.
And you don't have an idea of like, for example, what last year, and last year would
It's
be
more
an outlier anyway.
$900 and $1,000 usually, but I was looking at this year's already, we're at $1,500.
Huh, interesting.
We're on the wrong gig.
It's
I know.
been very busy.
We need to sit in that chair.
That's the total fee that's been collected, 1,500, and George will get 75%.
Yeah.
In addition to.
Actually, no, the
stipend.
1,500 is what he'll get because we send the other piece to the state.
Oh, that's the net.
That's an net, that's,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
That's on top of
At
CEO.
least 5,500.
That's, yeah.
It's more than all three of us put together.
Yeah.
It's a couple, well, it's my entire career.
I'm curious, is this a position that's an appointed position, or
Yes.
it's, okay, it's not, I don't know, it's not
It's not
a
elected.
town employee position, but it's an
Well,
appointed,
Kinda.
well, yeah.
Municipal appointments
yeah,
are kind of quasi-employee.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you
They
have
run,
to.
they run through payroll, but you get a stipend, not a,
Right.
not a weekly
Even,
paycheck.
even committee members have some protection under under Maine municipal government that would surprise you.
Hmm.
It's kinda scary, actually.
Yes, it is.
So you're looking at the credentials of each individual who wants the job, who expresses an interest in the job, and then you weigh all the credentials and make a decision.
Correct.
Well, I think it's damn near what Mike said, because they're all pretty close, really.
Yeah.
I mean, they
And
all
it's
have a
something we
little
have
bit of
to have.
background.
It's going to be
It's gonna roll
who
down.
gets,
Who can get a license?
who can get licensed, so that we're legally running the town.
And that's a personal expense for whoever wants the job.
Yep.
Correct.
I believe that if, at least with the CEO, if they're appointed, the classes
Are paid for
are paid
through,
for, and some of those classes are free if you're appointed, you're already appointed.
One of the people we spoke with, his intention is to do it for multiple towns. So I'm assuming if he follows through with that, he's probably actively pursuing the licenses right now, because whether we do it or not, he's intending on doing it for somebody, so that's.
right, and George was the CEO for several towns.
Correct,
So
correct.
there's a vacancy.
That's kind of the model, it seems like.
Right, right,
That's not my intention.
right, okay, so you're just, Sangerville is your only,
That's very clear.
there you go.
Total inventory of Sanger.
Well, and that's all we're worried
Yeah,
about,
we're not
Sangerville.
worried about
Sure.
it.
We're not worried about any of the other towns. And then, just as far as your availability, and how often what is your availability as far as being down in Augusta?
My term expires a year from this coming December. And the real busy time will start in January. Could run through all the things happen as they normally do. Could run through to the 1st of May.
That's a good
Yeah, and
fit,
code
actually.
enforcement is typically summertime.
Right, we get calls
And-
all the time.
Right.
You folks like this guy here. This type of thing. You get all kinds of calls. I won't
Yeah.
get 4 or 5 this week. So, but that's what. And if it worked out, I'm used to calls, used to dealing with people, taking care of problems. That's what I've done all my life. Between being a police officer and all those types of things. The goal would be to get people to comply with the law, but at the same time, work to make it so they can use it properly. That's what you need to do. People live their property. I remember a gentleman in Abbott Village that put a septic system in, and I asked him, I was just joking with him, but I thought I knew the answer when I asked him. I said, "Did you get your permits?" He said, "Oh yeah." He said, "I got all the permits I need." He said, "But what am I to do if they deny me a permit?" It's the only place I got. So, I think in his case, I probably would have said, "Well, let's see what we can do, and let's make it a little better than perhaps it turned out to be."
Yeah.
Well,
Well, we appreciate you
sure.
showing your interest, and
Consider it.
we'll see what happens.
Very
I'll
much
look a little
appreciated.
bit into it, and,
Yeah,
Okay.
let us know.
Great, that would be good.
yeah,
Thank you.
I don't know if there's any legal aspect. I'm a state senator, and I will be for a year and a half or so. When I was on the Board of Selectmen, I became a state senator, and I was asked to resign.
Wasn't compatible.
Well, that's what I
It
was,
wasn't
Conflict
compatible.
of interest.
I'm not going to resign from the state senate. I'm elected, and I've said all the terms I told the people I would.
You can't be a select person and CEO, but I haven't seen anything else, so I'm not sure.
So that would be the first thing to investigate.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because that would be a game changer for you.
Right.
Yep.
And you? Okay, folks.
Thank you, Paul.
Very, very much.
Appreciate the entertainment this afternoon.
good. Stop in
That's not
anytime.
our goal.
Glad you're entertained, I guess.
Oh, not quite, I had a loose cannon.
Well, I don't know, it's pretty hard. Change comes hard.
It does.
Change doesn't come easy. If we're gonna do something with this building, then you're gonna have a tail for a while.
It's gonna be a lot of work no matter what.
At least it's not 6,000 for me. Take care. Have a nice evening.
We'll let you know before we send that bill.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll move
Thank
back to
you.
the top here. Select Board, approval of the minutes, Select Board meeting 8/4/2021.
Are you gonna read them all off, or?
Okay, I will do
Oh.
that. We'll bundle them. Special Select Board meeting 8/9/2021 and annual town meeting 8/19/2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes at A, B, and C as read.
Second.
All in favor? We're all three in favor. Item 3, review of treasurer's warrants, payroll 72, accounts payable 71 and 73.
Make a motion to approve A and B as read.
Second.
All in favor? We're all three in favor. We had our open session. New business. We did a cemetery deed for Marilyn Bailey, Cemetery Row 1.
Oops, hold on.
Yeah, there's,
His last name would be Hartford.
Hartford, Cemetery Row 1, Plot 6.
Bailey Cemetery.
Yep.
We just need
Maryland
to,
Hartford Bailey Cemetery, Row 1, Plot 6.
So I will make a motion to grant this deed for Maryland Hartford Bailey Cemetery, Row 1, Plot 6.
second. All in favor? All three. Boston Post Kane.
This morning, somebody called me and wanted to know if we were still awarding Boston Post cane. And wanted to know because their father is 89 and basically know if he might be in the running to receive it. I know we have the cane in our safe. I don't know the last time it went out. I started looking a little bit. What most towns seem to do now is award the cane with a certificate, or some of them have a replica that they give to the person or some other piece of memorabilia, go and take a picture and keep the cane safe in the town's custody, basically. Basically, towns tend to set age limits and residency limits before they award the cane, in case they have senior citizens, nursing homes, people who are not really part of the community, or
Sure.
and the age limit seems usually to be 90, and the length of time seems to usually be 20 years residency. Some of them do less, some of them do more. I just want to feel you guys out on it. As I said, I got this morning.
And this is a really dumb question, but how are you supposed to keep track of?
Well, so what most towns do.
You know what I mean?
Most towns do is they post on, on their websites, on their Facebooks, they can put it in the newspaper. Do you want to nominate somebody for the cane? They would give their name, their age, how long the residency. selectmen, and you'd have to find, the other thing you can do is look at voter registrations. That's about all we have that would give us any idea of who the cane might,
Does it go to the oldest person
oldest person.
alive in the town?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, that's,
so-
this,
I think, well, the only time I ever witnessed this, I happened to attend a town meeting in Dexter on the night that they were awarding the cane. And it's a tradition that in Dexter has gone on for a long time. So I think you kind of get a feel for who's in the queue.
Sure.
Because people
Yeah,
are
they-
looking forward
they-
to their day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the lady who received the cane that night was as proud as a peacock to get it. So it's a fascinating tradition that maybe if we, reinvigorated it,
Well,
we would kind of know who was coming
Lots
up.
of towns have a plaque, and they
Yep.
have a list of who. had
Past
for-
recipients, yeah.
Past recipients for which years. Most people are honored. I did read a couple of things that said some people hate to see you coming.
Well-
It means you're really old and,
Your time's up.
your time is up.
Right.
You won the
I
lottery.
feared the day I would get this cane.
Yeah. Wasn't looking forward to this.
But she was very proud, at least in her
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
So my grandmother had it for years.
Oh, really? I didn't, oh, that's
From
interesting.
Parkman, so I don't know how you guys feel about it. We can do a little research and come up with some.
I think it's great.
I would support it.
Yes. You're right.
I was just trying to
Engaging.
envision how do you do this without dumping all kinds of extra work on. But I like that, I mean, you
think
could
just
put it
get a
out there, or,
nomination
yeah,
process,
nominate,
and if you don't.
put something on the website,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was making a list in my head. The gentleman was, his name is Jeff Priest, so Irving Priest was his father. He's 89. I'm thinking of Paul McFeeters, he's gotta be close to that. I don't know, Nancy Hall.
Yeah, I mean,
I've-
wouldn't take that long probably, I mean,
No.
you're not talking that many people. and
Right.
No.
Everybody kinda does know a lot of them, so.
Particularly once the word got out that the
Maybe
cane was back.
Historical
Sure.
Society has some idea of the past.
Well, I do know that the cane that you have involved is not the original cane that the Boston Post distributed. It's a replica
And we've
of
lost,
the original.
and we've lost the original years ago, or you
No,
have?
no, we never, the Boston Post, the newspaper,
Yeah,
they ended up giving, I don't know how many.
431.
Okay, yeah. to places around New England, I
Yeah.
believe, yes.
Yes.
And Sangerville never got an original. As far as I know, we never got an original. But it was some ladies group in Sangerville who ended up pulling the funds together to make one for the town.
Oh,
And then for a while, it was lost. Somebody died and the family just hung
I
on to it.
didn't know.
And eventually, I think there was like an estate clean out, and that's how the town got it, and has clung on to it ever since.
And
Because
that happens,
it got lost.
that happened a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's why, as a town, we haven't honored our senior citizen, is because of that little lost snafu that went on, and it's kind of too bad. I love the idea that you're.
But why couldn't we, I mean, if we're that worried about losing it again, why couldn't we do something with a plaque? I mean, if you nominate somebody, they could come in.
We get a
and
picture
For the presentation,
on the
you get a
plaque.
picture with the
Yeah.
cane, bloody, bloody, blah, and here's your plaque saying that you got it, and that's yours, this is ours.
Right.
So that we don't lose it again. But you still have that recognition and,
But if all you ever did was leave it locked in the vault, you might as well have lost it.
I know.
Right, that's a good
That is
point.
true.
That's a very
I
good
mean,
point.
we came across it one day last year, I think, and I was like, what is this? Oh, that's our Boston.
Yeah.
Could it be, I know it shouldn't be out in the hallway or anything like that, but is there space in the office where the cane could be put with a plaque for recipients of, you know?
Yeah,
and
do
then it
something.
would cost-
Yeah,
Yeah, and it would cost like $5 just every time the cane
Yeah.
moved to the next person to put a new recipient down.
I think we might even be able to talk a local business into donating those, and it will cost you.
You think there's a business in town that does that kind of thing?
Number all can do that.
Yeah.
Number all can do that.
Yes. Yes.
I might be able to twist some arms, we don't know that, but,
But the fact that you had an inquiry, I think,
Yeah.
is worth
it is,
pursuing.
yes.
so do we want to set those limitations, or you want me to just
I mean, it should be a resident, right? And it
Yeah,
should be,
I think long-term resident,
I wouldn't get into defining long-term, because I think you can get yourself in trouble. Because then you're
good.
5 years, 2 years, 10 years, I mean, if you're a
Just set a
resident.
minimum.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe you don't want to award it to someone who's only been here a year. Maybe you do, but if you had a minimum of a decade, or I'm just
Yeah.
picking that
Sure.
number, but.
We don't have a nursing home. We do have a senior citizen, so people do move in there, but they tend to live there for, if they're elevated, they'll live there for a while. I mean, I don't know what your feeling is on those. And then if somebody doesn't nominate them and we don't have them in our records, I mean,
right.
you have to be nominated, I guess, to.
And originally, the person who was holding the cane, they held it until they passed. So,
Yeah, you don't move into town and say, hey, I'm old, give it.
well, I mean, and it was almost like.
Anybody who moves has to give a cane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You're,
ideally.
you're no,
In theory.
in
In
theory,
theory.
in theory, you're
Yeah.
no longer a resident, and therefore you're no longer the oldest resident of the town.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess we could think about it and come up with a criteria, or we can just set a criteria
I can draw something up, if we're gonna
Yes.
have a meeting, not next
on the 8th.
date.
Right, yeah, and we can,
I think setting the criteria is the easy part, it's getting your list and figuring out
Yes.
who that is the
Right.
bigger challenge.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have a couple of communications that I didn't get till this afternoon, if you want.
Go right
A
ahead.
quick update. One of them is from the state about the local fiscal recovery program. We heard that we have money out there allocated to us. There are many, many hoops to jump through, and so I'll have to get started on that. But this is a 2-page email and all the things I need to do to access that. And the other is an email from Rick Pellerin. He is complaining about his driveway still. If you remember, after we did McFeeters, his driveway now washes out and the water runs into his neighbor's, down his neighbor's driveway and under their house. But he wants to know what we're going to do about it. I'll just refresh you that the contractor who did the work didn't have a good solution. The paver went and put in some raw riprap to keep it, and that didn't work. I don't have any other solutions. I don't know. I don't have any other answers. He says he's thinking about paving his driveway, but doesn't want to do so if the ground underneath is going to wash out. So.
Can't believe with the ditch up through there. it's
I
not
thought
going
that was
down through the
resolved.
ditch.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a driveway culvert, right? We
That's where
used
had
to
the-
hammer.
That's where we had the black.
That's right.
The hammer to
Yeah.
get through.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, he said we solved his foundation water issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
The
so,
driveway issue is not resolved. You guys can all go look on your.
Yeah, I'm just confused, I mean, it's got a culvert, and it's got a new ditch, it shouldn't be an issue.
No.
Yeah,
must be
rip-
backing up over the culvert somehow.
Maybe the culvert's too high and the ditch.
That's what I'm wondering.
But that probably was determined by the ledge.
Yeah.
He probably took as much as he could get.
Yeah. I don't.
From there to say without asking.
But then you probably have to build up the uphill side of your ditch.
Better look at it.
Yep.
It's
I'm
better to
open
look
to
at
any
it, second
suggestions.
guess.
I don't know what to do about it.
No, I hear you. Obviously, we don't either.
No.
Yeah.
I'm surprised riprap don't work, because that usually works everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, even on Oliver Hill, I mean, there's a serious grade over there, and they rocked it, and it has not moved. Anything else? Okay. Selectmen's concerns?
Well, one concern that I have, and I'm just would like to start to discuss is we've had several people comment about culverts, that driveway culverts that have not been taken care of for a year.
I've assigned those culverts 2 or 3 times, and people just didn't
I
bother
went
to
and
do
looked at
them.
that, by the way.
Oh, it's definitely needs to be done, yes.
It's ragged.
Yeah. It was never a question of, was it our problem? Yes, it's our problem. You know, and I had people say, well, yep, I'll do it for you, yep. And every time I call them, oh, no, I haven't gotten to that yet. And this year I started in March looking for some, like, you know, can I get in the front of the line here? You know, as soon as the frost gets out, can you fix these couple of culverts for me? And everybody was already lining up their other stuff and didn't want to do little jobs. I think right now I'm going to reassign, I'm going to call a couple of other people and I can find somebody who will do those 2 culverts. But again, you know, they may tell me yes and I may still be chasing them.
Just the years.
It's
And she was, there's another Moulton.
Alice,
Homes and
Alice.
over. There's 4 on my road.
Yep, yeah, I have 3
3 on
people
it.
that call me now, you know, now,
And I know Mrs. Peters brought up,
right,
I
at the
mean,
annual meeting.
I don't know how many times
So
I've
it
talked
does.
about that space between Bob's and Dale's. It's horrible. And she's right, it's been a year or more.
Well, there's more culverts out there than just between.
Well, the potholes, is what she was mentioning in the meeting.
I guess my overall concern is that we're not staying, our goal, and one of the most important things that we really were dialing in on was getting our work done and preparing for next year. And we were really starting to, I mean, with McFeeters, the way that got done.
Seemed like
and-
we're going backwards.
Yeah.
Right, we are backsliding, and that's not good. I mean, most people in this town, that is the most important thing to them, are their roads and their driveways, and they're,
Well, my bigger problem with it is, since we have gotten rid of Public Works, we've been able to pave more roads, more
Yes.
miles than we've ever paved, ever. We've been able to do more culverts, more work, more.
Right.
So, everybody thinks you got rid of Public Works, no, it's a bad thing for the town. Well, the reality, no, we've proven that that's not true. That by not having Public Works, you can do way more with less cost. But the problem is everybody has a perception that, well, we had Public Works
And they did that.
and
Right.
I have a culvert that needs to be done, and it's been a year, and the reason why is because the
Is because-
selectmen got rid of Public Works.
right, exactly.
Well, that's not true. The town's Public Works hasn't put in a culvert in probably 20 years or better. I mean, you've gotta go back a long ways to when we had a Public Works that actually had the capabilities of running equipment and doing things. And that's why we got rid of it, because we didn't have that anymore.
Right.
But that's not the perception. So, when we have these things, we're really getting beaten on it.
Yeah.
I will say, the one thing that worked better when we had a contractor or somebody else who was road commissioner is that they're responsible for it, and so if I called up and said, I've got a culvert, it was done within a few days. The hard part was getting the bigger projects done, and the planning, and was everybody on the same page? But the little stuff was more likely to get done. When you're looking at a contractor and saying, hey, can you drop everything and go to a culvert? They're like, yeah, we'll get to it. And then it turns out they didn't get to it. So,
But is it because you're giving it to the one contractor and then we kind of leave it alone? Or is it because we're giving it to the wrong contractor? Because I know one particular contractor,
Yeah.
bugs me all the time for work.
Yeah,
And I know he will,
and that's what all this summer has been about. Last summer I had somebody else ready to do it and they just ran out of time.
But I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, the road commissioner part of this thing, particularly in the summertime, when you've got all of these things that need to dovetail, is probably the most time-consuming part of the job.
Yes.
Not so much in the wintertime, I mean, the roads get plowed, the contractor's doing what they're supposed to do. And so my concern is, because we all went into this with our eyes wide open, that you have lots of responsibilities outside this building. Is this too time consuming?
If I could find somebody else to do road commissioner, I'd be happy.
You're not the first person to say that.
I really, really would.
Because
But it isn't like I haven't been looking.
we've got, the other thing that's frustrating is we have the money. It's not like that culvert didn't get changed for that lady because she can't afford it.
No.
Well, we've
The money's
never, ever
sitting there
spent-
waiting to implement it.
We have the culverts.
We have the
have
culvert, we got
everything.
all, we're ready to go. And so, I think we need to accept the reality of this situation and start, maybe noodle a better way to do this.
I would love to hear a better way to do this. And like I said, the pro of having a contractor be the road commissioner is that those little things get addressed. The downside is if the contractor, the big things like getting your salt and sand put up, getting your paving done, I'm in the dark a lot. And it's like, and I do a lot cheesy that way.
But I don't understand why, and maybe I'm just thinking different, but like, I typically use one contractor for work. And I only use one contractor for the sole reason, it doesn't matter how small it is or how big it is,
Yeah.
he's always there whenever I call. So, I don't know why you have to make a particular person the road commissioner
No, you could probably,
to think that you're gonna get that same service.
So you become important to that contractor.
Exactly.
Because he knows this is a piddly little job.
Yeah.
But
And-
over the next year and a half, Dale's gonna give me a lot of jobs.
Correct, but at the same token, and if this particular contractor was sitting here, because I've told this right to him many times, I know certain jobs, I pay more than I probably should for that convenience. But at the same token, there's a lot of little piddly things that get done that I don't even see a bill. So,
Loyalty.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty,
yeah.
in the whole end of the conversation, if you wanna nitpick certain bill, and this is where, for me, at my job, where I end up into a few heated conversations, cause you end up getting people that like to nitpick certain things. And it's very easy when you look at this one bill and say, you spent way too much money.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here, this blank piece of paper represents the next 5 that I didn't pay for.
Right.
If sometimes when you go to somebody else, you're gonna pay for every single one of
Every
these.
single thing.
So, and maybe I wouldn't, but at this point, for me, it's more important to know that whether it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday night and it's pouring, and if I pick up the phone, he'll be at the mill before I can get to the mill. So there's a value there.
Yep.
And it's pretty hard to, as cheap as I am.
So is it fair to say, if you were gonna run a little town like Sangerville and you had Sangerville's road budget, you'd approach it in a similar
Oh, I
fashion?
definitely would. Might have 2, but,
Right, yeah.
yeah, just because, and I only say that, I have 1, but I don't have that many emergencies. So I can see where I would have the conversation with a couple to see, is it better to just deal with 1 a year or with 2? Because when you do have that emergency, I really need you there. I can't.
Well, the interesting thing about a municipality is that budget is a known amount of money.
I know.
That 300,000 or 400, whatever that you budgeted that year, the local contractors, it's just
Yeah.
waiting for them to come get it.
Right, they can look and see.
So
how
once
much
you
money-
kind of build that relationship, it would seem like, that's,
It's pretty straight,
and it's every year.
for me at my work, obviously plowing, that's pretty good, easy, yeah, I know, they know they're gonna make X. But from plow season to plow season,
Who knows?
who knows how big or how little I'm gonna call, and I get the same service. So, like you just said, knows right on the front side, it's 300,000
Right,
or whatever.
That's our budget.
That's right, I'll do whatever I could do to get that and because it's a guaranteed paycheck if somebody could provide the same services. So I don't understand how we struggle trying to get contractors.
Well, I wanted to be able to use all of them, but you can't really do that. You have to really commit and, you know.
Well, it's easy to eliminate those who haven't followed up. I mean,
Yep.
someone who promised to do something for you a year and a half ago and hasn't done it, they don't need another phone call.
And they don't need a reason. If they wanna show up and ask a reason, I'm sure we would all show support and help with that reason.
Mm-hmm.
I was out collecting signatures and Chummy said to me he'd be happy to put out patch. That's what he said to me. Now, so I'd call him on it.
Yeah, I asked him directly and he was not happy to do that.
So there's one you can take off your
He
list.
said the same thing to me too.
Yeah.
He said the same exact thing to me, what he said to you.
Well, and
So-
previously he'd said to me, you know, just call me and at least he would go get it for me. Well, this time it was like, no, I don't even.
But this was only like
I know, and I talked to
a
him,
week and 2 weeks ago.
I talked to him like the week prior to that and he said, no.
I'm pretty sure we all have about the similar story, that we all listen to certain citizens within our community,
Yep.
and they all begged and pleaded, will you please get on the board, and if you do, I'm willing to do this, and I'm gonna help do that, and we can all work together, and we can save the town all kinds of money.
Mm-hmm.
And here we sit by ourselves,
Yeah,
and that's the reality of how this works. So, and it's not just the one, there's several in this category, but it is how it works.
so I think we need to, I think that needs to move up higher on that. I mean, I don't wanna be I just.
No, I agree with you, and I
Because we're really, it's hard to build credibility. I mean, we went through for us working together, people know now that there isn't internal fighting and all of that type of politics and that, they know we're working together, we're really trying our hardest, but now we're really losing a foothold in people feeling like we're making the right decisions when we know if we look at our budget, how we're spending our money and things like that, but it's hard so.
we gotta execute.
Right, exactly.
And my own personal thought is I hate the thought of moving the road commissioner away from the town manager, just because, and this is my only reason, that title has more authority than anybody in this room.
It does.
And I don't like that authority to be out of our,
That's
meaning
why we
us
brought it
four's
back in.
control. I mean, it's crazy how much power a road commissioner can have.
That's right, and there are towns that don't have a town manager, they have a road commissioner and they have selectmen. Because of just exactly what you're saying.
Correct.
So we really, and that's what we wanted as a board, we said we want the road commissioner with our town manager, so that the town manager has the final say.
Well, it's just financial. I mean,
Right.
you can't have one spending money, the other one don't know what you're gonna spend.
Right.
So it
Right.
needs to be under one hat, and then everybody knows what everybody's doing.
Right, so, anyway, I think at this point, getting those culverts done has to,
Patch.
yeah.
Have you been down Silver's Mills?
No, I haven't.
Joey, just go for a ride.
I will.
Don't blow a tire.
And if you're going over 30 miles an hour, please hit the brake. You're not going way too fast. It's bad.
I went down there 40 miles an hour the other day.
I was late getting to Newport today, so I was doing 60 when I went down there, and my Jeep was not on the ground a whole lot, I can tell you that.
So, all
It's
right.
bad.
Okay.
Brian called me today about the upcoming schedule. I'm not available
Oh.
on the 5th. So our next meeting, I think, should be the 1st. If it turns out you don't need us for anything, then we can reschedule that, but we're looking,
Yeah, you weren't gonna be there for the 8th, right?
8th, right?
Right, so, and I'd wanted to move it to the 8th and the.
Oh, because there's five Wednesdays.
5 Wednesdays, and we
So-
have to meet.
I can meet the first is fine with me.
Yeah, we should at least queue it up.
Okay.
If you don't need us for anything, then we'll end up doing it after the 8th,
Okay.
that's all, but,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
But we will revisit this, because I guess we're all in total agreement essentially, so. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, wait a minute,
Oh,
sorry.
I'm so sorry.
That was close.
It was close. Did you happen to hear anything back yet about Anderson Road culverts?
No, I did not hear anything about the.
Because that bog's getting deeper and that pond's getting shallower.
You really want me to ask George instead of the DEP?
Whatever we
can
start with,
do
he's
to
your code
reset it.
enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Start
mean,
with George. If George says you need to go higher, go higher.
But if George Green lights it, I'd put it in.
I mean,
Okay.
you have people on Manhattan complaining because the
Water's
water
too
is
low.
2 inches below the dam, and
Yeah.
I can measure 2 feet in Center Pond right now.
Yeah. Well,
2 feet of water height,
It's down 2 feet?
yes,
Wow.
yes. And the
Because, I
bog
mean,
is, well, it's
because
not
of-
helping, I mean, that bog is, the culverts are plugged, and that's now back up through there forever. But we actually kayaked around the pond Sunday, and there's docks on the other side that are 20 feet out, and you know the big black wheels on your docks,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
roll them out, I can see the wheels at 20 feet.
Wow,
So, you're not putting boats out there in a lot of spots.
yeah.
So, and I'm not saying if we can get the culverts fixed, it's gonna solve the problem, but it's gonna help having
It's a
that,
first.
all of those,
Keep hoping.
and well, if you've got, there's a lot of gallons of water sitting in a bog that's supposed to be a brook, so
Right.
that's all. Okay, go ahead, Jody.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
We are adjourned. It's 5:25.